The earth trembled with the weight of a secret that had been buried for centuries. For years, humanity had believed they were the only sentient species in the vast universe, with nothing but the stars above to keep them company. But that belief was shattered in a moment, when a humble transmission from a forgotten corner of space reached Earth. It was a message, and the message was clear: we are not alone. It started as a routine scan. Just another mundane check of the stars, one of many performed daily by the government's Deep Space Observatory. The humans overseeing the scans thought little of it, until a transmission anomaly was detected from an uncharted region of space, hidden from view by the planet's dense ionosphere. It wasn't a simple signal. It was a message encoded in a pattern that could only be one thing: intelligence. And not just any intelligence, human intelligence. At first, the scientists thought it was a hoax. They dismissed the anomaly as interference. But when the pattern repeated, this time with a clarity they couldn't ignore, it was undeniable. The message was real. It came from a faraway planet, and the humans who lived there were not just survivors, they had built a thriving society, advanced in ways Earth could scarcely imagine. The transmission was short, filled with cryptic symbols, but its meaning was unmistakable. We are waiting. We are watching. It was a message of peace, but also a warning. These humans were not ordinary. They had survived a catastrophe on their home planet and had fled to this distant world. It was a new beginning, but a world where their technology had far surpassed Earth's. They had learned to adapt, evolve, and innovate in ways that made humanity seem like children playing with toys. For the first time in history, humanity realized they were not the pinnacle of life. But there was more to the story. Who were these people? And why had they remained hidden for so long? Liam Hunter, a government technician working at the observatory, had seen his fair share of strange signals, but nothing like this. The moment the message was discovered, he knew something was wrong. The world was about to change forever. The truth couldn't be kept hidden for long. Liam had worked with space data for years, and he was no stranger to government secrets. But this was different. This was a discovery that could shatter everything humanity thought they knew. His curiosity drove him to investigate further. What if this was a sign? A warning of things to come? Or perhaps a lifeline from an advanced civilization willing to share their knowledge? But the deeper Liam dug, the more complicated things became. Someone else, someone powerful, had also taken an interest in the transmission. Within hours, government agents had arrived at the observatory, and Liam was summoned to meet with them. It was clear that this wasn't just a routine investigation. This was bigger than anything he could have imagined. The agents were cryptic, their faces unreadable. They asked questions about the message, probing for details about what Liam had uncovered. But it wasn't just the information they wanted. They wanted control. The government, it seemed, had known about the other humans for a long time, but they had kept it under wraps. Now, the discovery had reached the surface, and there were those who wanted to ensure that it remained buried, perhaps for good reason. Liam was warned to stay silent. The world couldn't handle this knowledge, they said. The other humans were dangerous, they insisted. But Liam couldn't ignore what he had seen, what he had uncovered. These people, these other humans, were waiting. Watching. They were more advanced than anything Earth had ever known, and their message was clear: they were ready to make contact, but only if humanity was willing to accept them. As the days passed, the tension grew. The government began to mobilize, preparing for a response. But Liam, conflicted by the weight of the truth, couldn't shake the feeling that he was on the brink of something monumental. The future of humanity rested in the balance. Should he keep this secret, protect Earth from what could be an overwhelming truth, or should he risk everything to reveal what he had learned? One thing was certain: the other humans were no longer hidden in the vastness of space. They had made their presence known, and humanity's world would never be the same again. Liam stood alone in the observatory, staring at the stars through the glass, his thoughts racing. The message, the warning, the knowledge, it all felt too much. Yet, as he gazed at the vastness of space, he knew there was no turning back. The discovery had been made, and the question remained, what would humanity do with this new knowledge? What would he do? And then, just as the weight of the moment began to settle, the screen in front of him flickered again. Another message. This one wasn't a simple transmission, it was a video, distorted but clear enough to make out the figures in it. The faces of the other humans, their eyes filled with a strange, unearthly wisdom, stared back at him. The message ended with one final, chilling line, "We have waited for this moment. It is time." The message that flashed across Liam's screen had been haunting, its eerie final words still echoing in his mind. We have waited for this moment. It is time. What could that possibly mean? And why had these other humans waited so long to reveal themselves? Questions swirled in his mind, each one adding more weight to the burden he already carried. The discovery was too big to keep to himself, but too dangerous to share with the world. Liam couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching him. It wasn't just the government agents who had shown up the day after the transmission, it was something deeper, something more insidious. The knowledge he had uncovered felt like a ticking time bomb. The truth, if released, could tear humanity apart. He couldn't sleep that night. Thoughts of the other humans kept him awake, haunting his thoughts. The government had insisted that he stay quiet, that there was no need for panic. But how could they keep such a monumental discovery hidden? What was the cost of suppressing such knowledge? And what did it mean for Earth's future? He had to know more. Liam knew that the government wasn't being honest with him. They had been covering up the existence of these people for years, perhaps even decades. But why? What were they hiding? With his mind racing, Liam returned to the observatory the next day. His colleagues had been instructed to go home, as if nothing out of the ordinary had happened. But Liam felt the urgency of the situation, and he couldn't walk away. There had to be more hidden in the data, the transmission was only the beginning. As he dug deeper into the files, he found an encrypted message buried in the archives, one that had been placed there long before the recent transmission. It was an old document, dating back to the early days of space exploration, but its contents were chilling. The message described an ancient human civilization that had left Earth long ago, fleeing from a dying planet. They had been led to a distant corner of space, where they had thrived in isolation, cut off from the rest of humanity. The document told of their rapid technological advancements, their ability to adapt and evolve in ways that no one on Earth could imagine. They had lived for centuries, growing stronger and more intelligent with each passing generation. And yet, despite their remarkable progress, they had never forgotten their roots, their connection to Earth. But there was something more. Something that didn't add up. Hidden in the final lines of the document, Liam uncovered a shocking truth: the other humans were not just survivors. They had been watching Earth for years, monitoring humanity's every move, waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves. And now, that moment had come. Liam's heart pounded as he stared at the screen. The implications of what he had just uncovered were staggering. These other humans had known about Earth, watched over humanity's progress, and had waited for the perfect time to reveal themselves. Why? What were they preparing for? What did they want from Earth? His thoughts were interrupted by the sound of a knock on the door. Liam jumped, startled. He hadn't heard anyone approach, and the knock was quiet, almost deliberate. He knew it wasn't just anyone, these were the government agents, surely sent to find him. The door creaked open, and in stepped a man Liam recognized, a high-ranking officer with the space agency, someone who had always been cold and calculating. The officer's eyes were narrowed, a sense of urgency in his every movement. "Liam," he said, his voice low and stern. "We need to talk." Liam hesitated but stood up from his chair, the weight of the truth pressing heavily on his chest. He knew that whatever the officer wanted, it was only going to make things worse. "We've been watching you," the officer continued, his gaze piercing. "You've uncovered something you shouldn't have. You know too much now." Liam's blood ran cold. He'd suspected that the government had been hiding something, but this was different. They were here, in person, to confront him. "I didn't ask for this," Liam said, his voice shaking. "I found something that could change everything. We can't keep this secret. People need to know. The truth needs to come out." The officer's expression didn't change. "You have no idea what you're dealing with. These other humans, they're not just a threat. They're dangerous. If you release that information, it will destroy everything. It could bring about the end of humanity as we know it." Liam felt a chill run down his spine. "You've known about them all along, haven't you? For years. You've been hiding the truth from the world." The officer didn't respond. Instead, he stepped closer to Liam, his tone becoming more serious. "You need to understand that we've kept this secret for a reason. These people, whatever they are, they're not the allies you think they are. Their presence here, now, it's no accident. They have their own agenda, and we can't risk letting them in." Liam shook his head, the anger boiling inside him. "You're not giving them a chance. You don't know what they want. We don't know what they want. But we deserve to find out. The world deserves to know." The officer's eyes darkened. "You're out of your depth, Liam. We're taking control of this situation. If you release any more information, we'll have no choice but to stop you." Liam's heart pounded in his chest as he realized the full extent of what was at stake. The government wasn't just trying to suppress the truth, they were willing to go to any lengths to ensure that the other humans stayed hidden. What was so dangerous about them? Why were they willing to protect such a secret? In that moment, Liam made a choice. He couldn't let this go. He couldn't let humanity's future be determined by fear and secrecy. He had to act. And if he was going to do it, he would need to take risks that could cost him everything. He stood up straighter, looking the officer in the eye. "I'm going to expose this. I'll make sure the world knows what's really out there. You can't stop me." The officer's face twisted with anger. "Don't make this mistake, Liam. You have no idea what you're up against." Liam's decision was made. The stakes were higher than ever, but there was no turning back now. The truth had to come out. And as he turned away, he couldn't shake the feeling that the other humans were watching, waiting for him to make his move. The real question was, what would they do once the truth was exposed? The day after Liam's confrontation with the officer, things began to move faster than he could have ever anticipated. He barely had time to process his decision before everything he had uncovered started to unravel around him. The government's response was swift, calculated, and relentless. They were going to do everything they could to stop him from exposing the truth. Liam had underestimated the reach of the government. He knew they had power, but this was something else entirely. Within hours, agents had descended on the observatory, searching through files, confiscating equipment, and covering their tracks. It was clear they weren't just after the information, they were after him. They were willing to silence anyone who posed a threat to their carefully constructed narrative. Liam didn't wait for them to find him. He knew they would be coming for him next. The officer's words echoed in his mind, "You're out of your depth. We're taking control of this situation." He had no intention of letting them control his fate. He couldn't. The truth had to be told. He contacted his ally, Evelyn Moore, a former colleague who had worked with him on the original deep space scanning project. She was someone he trusted, and she had always been skeptical of the government's actions. If anyone could help him, it was her. "Liam, this is crazy," Evelyn's voice crackled through the phone, her tone urgent. I've been hearing whispers. People are looking for you. They're trying to cover up the transmission. What are you planning to do? I'm going public, Liam said, his voice steady despite the pounding of his heart. I'm not going to let them bury this. The world deserves to know what's out there. Do you have any idea what you're up against? Evelyn asked. The government is already moving to erase any evidence. They'll stop at nothing. I know, Liam replied. But I can't let them control this. I can't live with the idea of humanity being kept in the dark about the other humans. We have to find a way to get the message out, without them finding us first. I've got an idea, Evelyn said, her voice suddenly more confident. There's a safe house, a place where we can lay low and work without being tracked. I'll meet you there. We'll figure this out. Liam felt a sense of relief wash over him. At least he wasn't alone in this fight. He had someone who understood the stakes and who was willing to help him expose the truth. He couldn't afford to trust anyone else, too many people had their own agendas, too many hidden motives. Evelyn was his only ally now. They met later that night, under the cover of darkness. The safe house was a small, nondescript building on the outskirts of the city. It was perfect for what they needed, secluded, off the grid, and most importantly, undetectable. Once inside, Evelyn pulled up a secure computer terminal. We'll need to decrypt the original transmission. There's more to it, I'm sure of it. If we can get into the archives, we'll find something that proves what the government's been hiding. Liam nodded, though he had his doubts. The government had likely already erased any trace of the message, but Evelyn's skills in cyberforensics were second to none. If anyone could find the truth, it was her. As they worked, the hours stretched on. The tension was palpable. Every time a new line of code appeared on the screen, Liam's heart raced with anticipation. Would they find something? Or was the truth already lost forever? Suddenly, Evelyn's fingers froze on the keyboard. Liam. I think I've got it. Liam leaned in, his eyes narrowing. On the screen, a new transmission appeared, this one, much longer than the initial message. It was encoded in a series of complex symbols, but to Evelyn, it was a familiar language. This, she murmured. This is a blueprint. A map. It's showing the exact location of the other human settlement. Liam's pulse quickened. Can you decode it? I'll try, Evelyn said, her voice tight with concentration. But this will take time. The encryption is far more advanced than anything we've seen before. They worked in silence, the hum of the computer filling the room. Every second felt like an eternity. The government could be closing in on them at any moment. The weight of the secret they were uncovering hung heavily in the air. Then, a sudden noise from outside the building shattered the silence. A car had pulled up, its engine cutting off abruptly. Liam and Evelyn exchanged a glance. They weren't alone anymore. They found us, Liam whispered, his heart pounding in his chest. We have to move, now. Evelyn grabbed the hard drive containing the encrypted map, shoving it into her bag. We'll finish decoding it later. Right now, we need to get out of here. They sprinted to the back exit, their footsteps echoing through the empty hallways. But as they rounded the corner, they were confronted by a group of men, dressed in dark suits, their faces hidden by sunglasses. They were government agents. You don't have to do this, Liam said, his voice shaking but determined. We just want to tell the world the truth. The agent in front, taller and more imposing than the rest, shook his head slowly. You've made a grave mistake. This is bigger than you. The truth will never see the light of day. Not if we have anything to say about it. Liam's breath caught in his throat. They were trapped. But just as the agents moved to close in, a loud explosion rocked the building. The force of it sent them all tumbling to the ground. Dust and debris filled the air, blocking out the agent's sight. Through the smoke and chaos, Liam and Evelyn managed to slip away. They didn't know who had made the explosion or how they'd managed to escape, but they knew one thing: they couldn't stop now. The truth was too important. As they ran, Liam's mind raced. The explosion had given them a brief window of escape, but it wouldn't last forever. They were no longer just on the run from the government, they were racing against time. The other humans were out there, and every second brought them closer to the truth. But who else was out there, watching them? And what would happen when the world learned of the other humans' existence? The streets of the city were a blur as Liam and Evelyn ran, the night air thick with tension. They had no time to stop, no time to reflect. The explosion had given them the briefest of respites, but it also marked a point of no return. Whoever had helped them escape, whether ally or stranger, had ensured that they had a chance to keep fighting. But the fight wasn't just about evading the government. It wasn't just about running. It was about the truth. Liam clutched the hard drive tightly, his fingers sore from holding it so hard. Evelyn had already started working on decoding the encrypted message again. As they made their way to a temporary hideout, a small apartment on the edge of town, the magnitude of their next move began to settle on Liam. "Once this is out there," Evelyn said quietly as they sat in front of a makeshift computer, "there's no going back. We're talking about revealing a truth that could change everything. Humanity isn't just going to accept it. They'll panic." "I know," Liam replied, his voice distant. "But they deserve to know. We've all been living a lie." Evelyn nodded. "And it's not just the people of Earth. You realize, if the other humans wanted to come forward, they would have done it already. There's something more at play here." Liam glanced at her. "What do you mean?" "The transmission," Evelyn paused, tapping the keyboard rapidly. "It wasn't just a message. It's like a signal to us. They've been waiting for humanity to be ready. They might even be counting on us to make the choice for them." Liam's chest tightened as he took in the gravity of her words. The other humans had been watching for far longer than they could comprehend, but they had chosen to remain hidden. Why? Had they been waiting for humanity to prove something? Or had they, too, been waiting for their moment to strike? Before he could respond, Evelyn's voice broke through his thoughts. "It's done." The computer screen flickered, and a new message appeared. It was the full decrypted map, showing the location of the other humans' hidden settlement, a place deep in the outer rim of the galaxy, far from Earth's reach, but close enough that it could be reached with the right technology. And there was more. Scattered across the map were small annotations, information that Evelyn recognized immediately. It wasn't just a location, it was a detailed roadmap, showing patterns of communication between Earth and the other humans. It was proof that they had been monitoring humanity's progress for years. "This isn't just a message," Evelyn whispered, her voice shaky. "It's a plan. A blueprint for how we connect, how they integrate with us, and how they control us." Liam felt his stomach churn. "Control us?" "Look at this," she said, pointing to the screen. "These aren't just coordinates. These are data points, times, patterns, movements. These humans, they've been waiting for humanity to come to them. They wanted us to discover them. And they want something in return." Liam's mind raced. What could they possibly want from Earth? "I don't know yet," Evelyn said. "But it's clear they've been preparing for this moment for a long time." Hours passed as they discussed the implications of the data, but Liam couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The walls seemed to close in as he thought about the government's next move. They were going to stop at nothing to ensure this information never saw the light of day. Suddenly, the sound of a knock on the door broke through his thoughts. The hairs on the back of his neck stood up. It was too late to be a coincidence. Evelyn went to the window and peeked through the blinds. "They're here," she whispered. "It's the government. They've tracked us down." Liam's pulse quickened. What now? We need to get out of here. Now, Evelyn said, grabbing the hard drive and slipping it into her bag. The moment they get in here, they'll wipe everything. We can't let that happen. They moved quickly, rushing through the back door of the apartment. But the streets were not safe anymore. The government had mobilized. They knew exactly where to look. As they ran through the alleyways, Liam couldn't shake the feeling that their every move was being watched, tracked. Who was behind this? Was it just the government, or was there something deeper at play? Then, the unmistakable sound of sirens pierced the night air, growing louder as they approached. Get down! Evelyn hissed, pulling Liam into an abandoned building. They crouched low behind a stack of boxes, their breath shallow as they listened for the sound of footsteps. Minutes passed, long, tense minutes, until the sirens faded away. But they both knew it wasn't over. It had only just begun. Back in the safety of the building, they huddled over the computer, trying to make sense of the map and the encrypted transmission. But Evelyn suddenly stopped, her eyes wide with shock. What is it? Liam asked, leaning in closer. There's more to the message. Something I didn't see before. She clicked through the lines of code. As the screen refreshed, an additional file appeared. It was a series of instructions, carefully laid out. These instructions weren't for humanity, though. They were for the other humans. A blueprint for interaction. An agreement. And at the end of the file, one final line. A chilling warning. If humanity is to survive, the others must be guided by the hand of the one who discovers the truth. You, Liam Hunter. Liam recoiled as the weight of the message hit him. The other humans weren't just watching Earth, they were waiting for him. The words on the screen swirled in Liam's mind, like a storm he couldn't escape. If humanity is to survive, the others must be guided by the hand of the one who discovers the truth. You, Liam Hunter. The message echoed in his thoughts, each word growing louder, more urgent. He felt his heart race, his palms growing clammy. What did it mean? The other humans had been waiting for him? What could they possibly want with him? And why did the fate of humanity rest in his hands? Evelyn looked at him, her face pale. Liam, this is huge. They didn't just choose anyone. They chose you. You're the key to everything. Liam swallowed hard. I don't understand. Why me? Why didn't they make contact before? I don't know, Evelyn replied, her voice trembling with the weight of the situation. But if the others are waiting for you, that means something. They're watching, and they want to guide us, through you. Liam ran a hand through his hair, his thoughts spinning. The other humans had been in hiding for so long, silently observing Earth's every move. And now, after all these years, they had chosen him. But why? Was it fate? Or was it something deeper? He looked back at the screen, his gaze narrowing. The instructions, the blueprint, weren't just about technology or survival. It was more than that. There was something hidden in the message that still eluded him. Something he needed to understand if he was going to move forward. Evelyn, we need to figure out what these instructions really mean, Liam said, his voice steady now. We need to understand what they want from us, from me. Evelyn nodded, her fingers flying across the keyboard as she dug deeper into the file. But as she worked, Liam couldn't help but feel a growing sense of dread. What if the other humans had been waiting for the wrong person? What if they had made a mistake? The government was closing in, and with each passing hour, they were getting closer to finding him. Liam had never felt more exposed, more vulnerable. The weight of the truth was too much to bear. If the other humans were right, if they really needed him, he couldn't let them down. But what if, in the end, the truth wasn't worth the price? The sirens in the distance pulled him from his thoughts. They were getting closer. The government had tracked them down again. They had no time left. "We need to move," Liam said, his voice urgent. "Get the files, grab the hard drive. We need to go. Now." Evelyn's eyes widened, but she didn't hesitate. She stuffed the hard drive into her bag and shut down the computer, her fingers moving quickly. They had no choice but to leave the building and head deeper into the underground networks that only a few knew about. This was no longer about just running, it was about surviving long enough to expose the truth. But as they moved toward the exit, a familiar voice rang out, cutting through the chaos. "Liam, you don't have to run." Liam froze, his heart racing. He knew that voice. It was the officer, the same one who had warned him to stay silent, to forget everything he had uncovered. He turned to face the man, his breath shallow, his fists clenched. "You don't understand," Liam said, his voice shaking. "You don't know what they're planning. The other humans are here. They've been watching us. You can't hide this anymore. The truth needs to come out." The officer stepped forward, his eyes cold and unwavering. "You have no idea what you're dealing with. These other humans, as you call them, they're not here to help us. They're a threat. They've been manipulating us for centuries." Liam shook his head. "You're lying. You've been lying to everyone. Why do you think they've waited so long to reveal themselves? Why didn't they come sooner if they were really a threat?" "They knew we weren't ready," the officer said, his voice low. "And now, they want to control us. To make us part of their plan. Do you really think you can trust them? That you can trust yourself with this knowledge?" Liam stepped forward, his voice firm. "I don't know what they want, but I do know that we have a chance to change everything. We can't keep living in the dark. We can't keep hiding from the truth." The officer's face twisted with frustration. "You don't understand what's at stake. If you reveal the truth, you'll trigger a war. You'll tear this planet apart." "You're wrong," Liam shot back, his eyes burning with determination. "The truth is the only thing that can save us. And if you won't help us, I'll do it myself." A tense silence hung in the air. For a moment, it seemed like the world had stopped moving. Then, without warning, the officer pulled out a small device from his pocket, its red light flashing. "Liam, don't make me do this," he said, his voice filled with a cold, mechanical resolve. But before Liam could react, Evelyn moved faster than he could follow. She lunged forward, knocking the device from the officer's hand, and the room exploded into chaos. The officer lunged at them, but Evelyn was already ahead, pulling Liam into a side hallway. They dashed through the building's corridors, the sound of running footsteps echoing behind them. The government had found them again, and they weren't going to stop until they had control of the situation. Liam's heart pounded in his chest. Every instinct told him to keep running, but his mind was filled with a single thought: they can't stop us. The truth must come out. They reached the back exit of the building and sprinted toward the nearby alley. The world outside was chaotic, with police cars and government vehicles lining the streets. But there was no time to think. They had one chance to escape, and one chance to make the truth known. As they disappeared into the darkness, Liam couldn't shake the feeling that the fight was far from over. The truth was out there, but the real battle had only just begun. The other humans were waiting. And it was up to him to decide whether humanity would accept them, or be destroyed by them. The cold night air bit at Liam's skin as he and Evelyn moved swiftly through the alleyways. They were deep in the heart of the city now, far from the apartment and the makeshift safe house where they had been hiding. The government was closing in, and every move they made seemed to be one step closer to their capture. But there was no turning back now. The truth was out there, and they couldn't let it be erased. Liam's mind raced as he thought about everything that had happened in the last few days. The discovery of the other humans, the government's pursuit, the betrayal by the officer, Each moment had brought them closer to this moment, a moment where their choices would decide the fate of Earth. But the deeper they got into the mystery, the more Liam realized that there was something bigger at play. It wasn't just about exposing the truth, it was about humanity's survival. And he had a choice to make. Evelyn's voice broke through his thoughts. Liam, we need to decide what comes next. We can't keep running forever. The truth is out, but the government won't stop. You know they'll do anything to silence us. I know, Liam replied, his voice tight. But what other choice do we have? The other humans are here, and we need to find out why they've been waiting for us. They've been watching us for so long. We can't just hide from the truth anymore. I get that, Evelyn said, her tone hesitant. But we have to ask ourselves, are we ready for them to come forward? We don't know what they really want. They've been hiding all this time for a reason. What if we're not prepared for what they'll bring? Liam stopped in his tracks, turning to face her. The weight of her words sank in. Are we ready? What if the truth wasn't what they expected? What if the other humans weren't the saviors they had imagined, but something far more dangerous? He had seen the map, the encrypted files. He had seen how the other humans had been preparing for this moment. But did that preparation involve peace, or something far darker? Before he could answer, a distant sound, a low hum, began to grow louder. It wasn't the sound of the government's cars or sirens. It was something else. Something unfamiliar. Liam's heart skipped a beat as the ground beneath them vibrated slightly, sending a chill up his spine. Do you hear that? Evelyn asked, her voice tense. What is that noise? Liam's eyes darted toward the source of the sound. The streets ahead were eerily quiet, save for the hum that seemed to pulse through the air. It wasn't a sound that belonged to Earth. It's them, Liam whispered. It's the other humans. Before either of them could react, a bright light appeared in the sky, a flash of light that illuminated the dark streets. It wasn't like anything they had seen before. A large craft, a ship, began descending slowly, hovering above the city. Its surface shimmered, an iridescent glow casting strange reflections across the buildings and streets. Liam's heart raced, his breath shallow. He had read about it. He had seen the map. But seeing it, feeling it, was something else entirely. This was real. The other humans were here. But why now? Why after all this time? And why him? The craft hovered just above the ground, its presence both beautiful and terrifying. A hatch opened slowly, and a figure stepped out. It was tall, humanoid, but unlike anything Liam had ever seen before. Their features were elegant, almost ethereal, with pale skin that glowed faintly and eyes that reflected the stars themselves. The figure's voice echoed through the streets, though there was no sound. It was a telepathic message that felt like it was being spoken directly into Liam's mind. We have waited for you, Liam Hunter. You have the knowledge we seek. You have the power to guide us. Liam's chest tightened. The message was clear. They weren't here for humanity, they were here for him. He exchanged a quick glance with Evelyn. She looked as stunned as he felt, her eyes wide with disbelief. Liam, they really want you. I don't know what to do, Liam admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. I've been running from the truth, trying to uncover what they want. But now they're here. And I don't know if we're ready for this. Evelyn took a deep breath, her eyes softening with concern. What if we're the ones who aren't ready for them? What if the truth we're seeking is more dangerous than we can imagine? Liam hesitated. He could feel the weight of their decision pressing down on him, heavier than anything he had ever faced. If they allowed the other humans to come forward, there was no telling what would happen. Would Earth embrace them? Or would the revelation tear humanity apart? But as the figure's voice echoed in his mind once again, a feeling of calm settled over him. There was no more running. There was no more hiding. It was time to make the choice. You must decide, Liam Hunter. Will you guide us? Or will you turn away from the future of humanity? Liam looked at Evelyn one last time. She gave him a small nod, as though telling him it was okay to make his choice. She wasn't sure what to do either, but they both knew that this was a decision only he could make. With a deep breath, Liam stepped forward, his gaze never leaving the figure standing before him. I'll guide you, he said, his voice steady, but filled with an undeniable sense of resolve. I'll help you show humanity what you really are. But I'm not doing this alone. The figure nodded, its eyes glowing brighter now, and the ship behind them seemed to hum louder. The decision had been made. The truth would come to light. And with that, the figure spoke again, this time with a promise. Together, we will change the course of history. Together, we will build a future like no other. Liam's heart raced, and every fiber of his being trembled as he stood before the towering figure of the other human. The air around them seemed to pulse with an energy unlike anything he had ever felt, and the weight of the decision he had just made sank in. There was no going back now. The fate of humanity, and possibly the fate of an entire new chapter in human history, rested on what came next. The figure raised a hand, and the soft hum of the ship behind them grew louder, vibrating through the ground beneath their feet. The glowing eyes of the figure focused directly on Liam, as if reading his very soul. You have made the right choice, the voice echoed within his mind. But now, you must prepare to face the consequences. For the truth is not always as it seems. Liam nodded, his voice steady despite the uncertainty that gripped him. I know that now. But we have to face it. We can't live in the shadows anymore. Humanity deserves the truth. Evelyn, standing beside him, her hand resting lightly on his arm, spoke softly. We have to trust in our ability to adapt. We can't know what the future holds, but we have to believe that it can be better. That humanity can rise to the challenge. The figure's eyes flickered as if acknowledging their words. Then, in a voice that was no longer telepathic, but a soft, resonating hum that seemed to reach every corner of their being, it spoke again. You do not know the full extent of what lies ahead. Your world will change, Liam Hunter. The others will be revealed to the people of Earth, and some will accept, some will fight. But you must lead them, guide them through the storm that is coming. Only you can ensure that humanity does not lose its way. The figure stepped forward, a slight movement that was almost imperceptible but somehow filled with an overwhelming presence. It raised a small device from its side, a holographic map of Earth lighting up in the air before them. The locations where the other humans had hidden, the places they had observed from a distance, now lit up like bright beacons on the map. Humanity is fractured, the figure continued, its tone grave. You will not only face the fear of the unknown but the resistance from those who wish to keep the world in the dark. You must convince them, Liam Hunter. You must show them that the future is not to be feared. Liam glanced at Evelyn, her eyes filled with a mixture of hope and doubt. They had taken a step into the unknown, and the consequences would be far-reaching. There was no way of knowing what the world would say when the truth was revealed. Would they embrace the other humans, or would they fear them and push them away? The figure turned back to Liam, its eyes glowing brighter. Prepare yourself for what is coming. The choice to share the truth is no small one. But now it is your time to lead humanity into this new age, for they will look to you for guidance. Liam took a deep breath, the weight of leadership settling on his shoulders. For all the twists, the revelations, and the unimaginable pressure, he now realized something fundamental. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't in technology, power, or even knowledge. It was in its ability to adapt. To grow. To come together in times of crisis. We'll do what we must, Liam said, his voice stronger now, filled with purpose. I don't know what the future holds, but I know we'll face it together. We can't be divided anymore. The truth has to be out there. The other human inclined its head. Then we shall begin. With a sudden flash, a beam of light shot upward from the craft, cutting through the night sky. It was as if the heavens themselves were responding, as if the universe was signaling the beginning of a new chapter. Over the following days, the world began to change. The governments of Earth, initially in shock, scrambled to respond to the truth that had been revealed. The news of the other human spread like wildfire across the globe, and the reactions were mixed. Some saw the revelation as a lifeline, a chance for humanity to reach new heights and discover the untapped potential that lay within the knowledge and technology the other humans could offer. Others, however, saw the newcomers as a threat. Fear spread, as protests erupted in cities, and governments worked feverishly to control the flow of information. The media was filled with debates, with people divided over whether the arrival of the other humans meant salvation or destruction. The world seemed to teeter on the edge of a precipice, and the truth Liam had fought so hard to reveal had become both a beacon of hope and a weapon of uncertainty. But amidst the chaos, there was a new sense of unity that began to form. People, despite their differences, began to rally behind the idea that humanity must face its future together. Governments started to reach out to the other humans, initiating peaceful dialogues. The ones who had once been hidden were now walking among the people of Earth, sharing their wisdom, their history, and their potential for mutual growth. Liam and Evelyn stood together, watching the world slowly shift. They had no way of knowing what the future would bring, but one thing was certain: humanity had been given a choice, a chance to embrace its future or to crumble under the weight of fear. And with their guidance, humanity would rise. Liam turned to Evelyn, his eyes filled with determination. "This is just the beginning, isn't it?" She smiled, her eyes warm with understanding. "Yes. But we've made it this far. And together, we'll face whatever comes next."